Syndicate represents the 9th game in Ubisoft's Assassin's Creed main series, following up from the poorly received Unity. This time around, the setting is Victorian England during the Industrial Revolution. And for the first time, the player will have two main characters to play, fraternal twins actually, Jacob and Evie Fry. The title's release date is October 23rd on PS4, Xbox One, and November 19th on PC. Keep in mind, if you're going to be looking to pick it up on PC, that Steam purchases still require a Uplay account. The release price is $60 US for the base game. Adjust for your own exchange rates accordingly. It's worth mentioning that this time around there are only 5 different versions, so obviously it only goes up from the $60 price tag, but that depends on whether you want fancy statues, included season pass, and other exclusive bits. As I say, only 5 different versions instead of, maybe 1 and a collector's. Personally, I'm not keen on exclusive content, but for your own knowledge, the PS4 base game has an extra DLC called Penny Dreadful Crimes, so if you care and have both consoles, then get that one. This footage is recorded from the PS4 version through an Elgato HD 60 to my PC and edited from there. It's all my own footage and no B-roll. Check the timecode jump points in the description for the aspects most important to you. My name's Tarmack, let's get into it. Assassin's Creed combat is usually fairly lackluster when you get into close quarters battles, and Syndicate doesn't change much in that regard. You've got a basic attack, a stun, or block breaker, and a dodge. The UI above the enemy characters telegraphs what they're about to do, so it's kind of a Simon Says sort of combat system. Yellow flashing bar, dodge. White gray bar, hit them with a stun. No bar, mash your attack button until your thumbs hurt or the color changes. Some familiar items include throwing knives, smoke bombs, sedating darts, with a few new tricks like an electricity bomb. Where it comes to difficulty, though, you'll often find that you massacre groups of trash, but when it comes to a boss-type NPC, if you haven't upgraded your gear as often as you can, prepare to be doing a lot of basic attacking and dodging for quite a while. Unfortunately, there's not much of a chance to skip out of a boss encounter that you've died, a number of times to go and do a few upgrades. That's something that I would have liked to see. The combat does feel fluid, swapping from one NPC to another with a combo meter that can have different effects depending on what skills you've upgraded throughout. New weapons can be purchased and existing weapons can be upgraded once each for a nominal fee. All in all, it's Assassin's Creed combat. If you played one, you played them all. The character models fall a little short on the graphics side. The faces are so light sensitive that they lose all texture when they're in bright lights. It could just be the lighting, I guess, but lots of things seem too bright and lose their texture as a result. The hair is sharp and jagged. Charles Dickens, for example, his beard and his hair look awful. On the graphics side of things, the only other issue that I had, though, is the blur effect to simulate speed during horse carriage chases. Seems likely to me to be similar to how The Witcher 3 had to adjust their rendering engine to manage fast travel speeds. The blur likely helps with performance while assets are loading. Still, it doesn't look very good. The world is gorgeous, as every Assassin's Creed game is. The artists have done an amazing job at realizing a huge open-world version of London, complete with landmarks you would expect like Big Ben. The atmosphere is very immersive, seeing smoke spewing from factories off in the distance, boats traveling under bridges as you move around the world. Some of this stuff is really a sight to behold, and of course, the differences in style between the richer areas of the city and the docks, it just adds to the whole ambiance of everything. I didn't have much in the way of frame drops, maintaining a pretty solid 30 frames per second, which is to be expected on the PS4 and Xbox One. There were a couple of times, but not too often. All in all, it was a solid experience. I still have a difficult time getting over the general ease of movement in Assassin's Creed games, and Syndicate isn't any different. Absolutely, you will get hung up on objects, you'll climb when you meant to drop and such, but that general feeling of being able to go anywhere is always satisfying. I will say, though, that the Victorian architecture does introduce a few issues. For example, quite a few places in the world are very jagged in design, and while they look awesome, it does seem a bit silly to watch Evie jump down the side of a building like she's a mountain goat hopping from one jagged spike to the next. Syndicate introduced a grappling attachment to the Assassin's Gauntlet this time around as well, which apparently a lot of people asked for, and this is a bit of a double-edged sword for me. The best comparison that I could think of is the superpowers in Saints Row 4. When you can jump over buildings, why would you ever bother using a car? Well, the same is true here. If you can grapple to the top of Big Ben and then zipline from one place to another, it removes a bit of the intrigue of the climbing, which is one of the hallmarks of the series. So on the one hand, it's fun as hell, if still restrictive in some ways, and on the other, it means you'll do a lot less climbing. Throughout the game, you can swap between Jacob and Evie, and since I'm not doing a story section so I don't spoil anything, I'll say here that Evie is one awesome, badass, sexy assassin. She's got class and attitude and pulls it all off without having her boobs hanging out, so props for that character design. Ubisoft said that you can switch freely between the characters, but that's really only true when you're not doing a mission. The missions are specific to each character, and switching between them also means that you have to manage weapons and skills for each. It may just be me, but I think I would have preferred that they had a shared skill tree rather than independent leveling. The main reason for this is that the skill trees are identical, so you can have one specialize in opening locks while the other one specializes in combat, etc. But I never once felt like I actually wanted to switch characters so that I could unlock a box that I had found. That kind of meta gameplay just isn't my thing. You can still reveal map areas like all Ubisoft the game titles, but the grappling hook takes the actual climbing out of it as well. As far as quality assurance goes, by and large I didn't have any problems. There were a hitch or two that I saw, some pathing issues with NPCs involving small objects and the like, but nothing anywhere near the problems that Unity had. No faceless characters, crashes, or entire groups of NPCs falling through the floor. I do feel that some of the failure states of quests could have been adjusted though. Here's an example. This quest involves hitting a group of baddies with an electric bomb that you're supposed to do at the exact moment the NPC says the name of a fruit, which I did. I wasn't paying attention to the little wait piece of the UI in the top left, but rather his words. It turned out that not only did I fail the quest, but I hit a civilian who pathed through the spot I was supposed to throw the bomb at the same time. But again, in my experience, it was a reasonably bug-free time, and certainly no major issues or game-breaking bugs at all. There's something magical about hearing the whinny of a horse with a steam engine chugging in the distance in the bustle of a London street. The sound design in Syndicate is incredible, and something that in games doesn't get enough attention. Different areas of the city have vastly different feel to them, including music changes and ambient audio. Austin Wintory did the soundtrack, and frankly, if you're not familiar with his music, you should be. He absolutely nailed the Victorian-style sound. I'd also like to comment on the voice acting. While I will admit that the lip-syncing on the characters is pretty bad sometimes, the voice acting is exceptional. Every character that you converse with, outside of the basic vendors and that kind of thing, has an independent character and style, but never once did I get the feeling that a voice actor was just phoning it in. It's all awesome.
And what of this sister I've heard of, Miss Fry?
Miss Fry shall be gutted. Soon enough.
If you followed my work at all, you know that I can't make it through this without talking about the 100% optional microtransactions. The review build couldn't display the cost of the Helix credit, so I'm going on partial information here. You buy Helix credits with real money. The Helix credits can then be used to buy crafting resources, XP boosts, unlock crafting plans, and unlock maps. The idea of having microtransactions in a single-player game is absolute nonsense. It's pushing the completionist attitude in a game that is intentionally built around the idea that some stuff is hard to find, and some stuff takes a long time to find. I get that they want to make more money, but this is not adding value. If you're going to add value and ask for money, great. But if you're going to charge people to skip content, which it's your job to make as fun as possible, that's not great. I didn't want to do a full section on story so as to avoid spoilers, and also because honestly, I'm not a lore nut for most things. I will say, however, that bringing back the present day content was a mistake. Assassin's Creed is hallmarked by the places we get to go. Those places are awesome enough and have enough justification for the Templar-Assassin feud. We don't need present day context and going back through history searching for memories all over again. I just don't understand why Ubisoft doesn't let the locale and the story out there stand on its own. For the graphics side of things, the player characters are somewhat lackluster with poor textures, bad interaction with bright light sources and rough hair, but just about everything else looks amazing. The performance and quality assurance are fairly solid, or as solid as one would expect on the PS4. The sound design is incredibly immersive, and the voice acting is stellar. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I hope this review helps you make up your mind. I did receive review code from Ubisoft, but I wanted to explicitly mention that this is not sponsored content. There were a lot of sponsored videos out there for Syndicate, so be aware of that when watching other stuff. I'd really appreciate it if you would check out some of the other content on the channel, and hell, even subscribe for a while. My name's Tarmack. Thanks for watching.